Hey guys, welcome to the Creative Arena. So in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create this wonderful Elementor animated zoom effect on ScrollTrigger like a pro without the use of any line of code or additional plugin. So at the end of this tutorial, we're going to create something that looks like this, and then when you scroll, you're going to see this wonderful zoom effect. As you can see, this is a demo web page. We've added this effect to, as you can see. When you scroll back up, it closes like this. So I'm going to walk you step by step on how to achieve this wonderful zoom effect without the use of any line of code or additional plugin, just making use of Elementor features to achieve it. Okay, so without further delay, let's dive in and get started. In our Elementor editing screen, the first thing I'll do is I'll click on this plus icon here, select the Flexbox container, select the structure here, then come over to where we have the content width, change it to full width. For the minimal height, I'll change the unit from pixel to VH and give it a value of 300. Then I'll come over here to where we have the additional options. For the overflow, I'll set it to hidden. Now I'll click on this plus icon here and drag a container and drop it here. Now I'll duplicate this container. Now I'm going to rename each of these containers here for reference purposes. So for the first container, I'll call it hero. Now for this container within the hero container, I'll call it the front. And for the second container within the hero container, I'll call it the back. Okay, so now for the front container, I'll come over here where we'll have the content width. I'll set it to full width. For the minimal height, I'll change the unit from pixel to VH and give it a value of 100. Then I'll come over to the style option. For the background type, set it to classic and then give it a background image. Now for media library, I'm going to select this image here. Okay, now I'll come over to where we'll have the position, set the position to center. For the repeat, I'll set it to no repeat. Display size, I'll set it to cover. Okay, now I'll head over to the advanced settings. I'll come over to where we'll have the position, set the position to fixed. Okay, now that I've done that, the next thing I'll do here is I'll just come over here and then I'll hide this front container so that we can work on the back container. Now for the back container, I'll come over to the content width, just like I did for the front, set it to full width. For the minimal height, change the unit from pixel to VH and give it a value of 100. For the item direction, I'll set it to row horizontal. Now I'll come over to the style option. For the background type, I'll set it to classic and give it a background image. Now I'll select this image here. Now come over to the position, set it to center. Now for the repeat, I'll set repeat to no repeat. The display size, I'll set it to cover. For the scrolling effects, I'll turn it on so that we can have this little parallax effect when we scroll on our background. So now I'll come over to the scale and scale it up, but this time around I'll reduce it to 2. And for the viewport, I'll set it to the bottom 0% to the top 100%. I'll come over to the effects relative to and then set it to the entire page. Okay, so now that I've done this, I'll come over here to where we have our element and drag the container and drop it here. Now I'll duplicate this container here. But before I proceed, I'll come back to this back container here. Then I'll head over to the advanced settings. Come over to where we'll have the motion effect. And then for the sticky, I'm going to set the skid sticky to the top. And then set it to stay in column. Okay, now I'll come over to this container here, this first container here. I'll rename it to image, and for the second container I'll rename it to content. Okay, so for the image container, I'll come over, justify content to the center, then click on this plus icon here and drag the image widget and drop it here. Now I'll select an image from our media library, this image here. And then I'll come over to the advanced settings, come over to where we'll have the motion effect, and then I'm going to set the scrolling effect to on. And then for the horizontal scroll, I will set the direction to the right, and for the speed, I'll set it to 5. For the viewport to the bottom, I'll leave it at 0%, but for the top, I'll drag it to 50%. Okay. So now I'll come over to where we have the effect relative to and I'll set it to the entire page. So we now have this. Okay. So now I'll come over here to the content container. Then I'll click on this plus icon here and select the container. and drop it within. So now for the content container, I'll come over here, justify content to the center. So now this container that I've added here, I'll rename it to inner. Now for this inner container here, this is the container. I'll go to the advanced settings, set the padding to 50 pixel all round, then come over to our widget area and drag the heading widget and drop it here. Now for the text, I'll change the text to create an impact. Then I'll head over to the style option and tweak it a little bit. For the text color, I'll set it to white. For the typography, I'll set the font family to Poppins. And then for the font size, I'll change the uniform pixel to REM and give it a value of 7. Now for the weight, I'll set it to 700 bold. Transform, I'll set it to uppercase. And we now have something that looks like this. Okay, so the next thing I'll do is come over to our element area and then drag the text editor and drop it right below. Then I'm going to copy this here and then paste it again and paste it again. Come over to the style option and for the text color, I'll set it to white. Now go back to our element area and then drag the button widget and drop it right below this. Now change the button text to Learn More and then go to the style option. Come over here for the button text, change the color to black. The background color, set it to white. For the border radius, give it a value of 100 pixel all round. Box shadow, give it a solid color of white. Okay, so we now have something that looks like this. Now that we've done this, the next thing I'll do is I'll come over to the inner container here, and then I'm going to add some style into it. I'll go to the style option. For the background type, I'll set it to classic. And for the background color, I'll give it a black color, but this time around, I will reduce the opacity to have something like that. Then I'll come over to where we'll have the background overlay. Now for the background overlay, I'll set it to classic and then give it a background color of 976D00. Okay. Then I'll come over to the opacity, leave it as it is. And then for the CSS filter, I'll come over here to the blur. I'll give it a value of 15. Okay. Then come over to the border radius and give it a border radius of 20 pixel all around. So now this is what we'll have here. Okay. So now finally, still on the inner container, I'll go to the advanced settings, come over to where we'll have the motion effect. And then for the scrolling effect, I'll turn it to on. And for the horizontal scroll direction, I'll leave it to the left. For the speed, I'll set it to 5. Now for the viewport, to the bottom, 0%. And then for the top, I'll bring it to 50%. Okay, now I'll come over to the effect relative to and set it to the entire page. Okay, so now we now have this effect when we scroll, as you can see, with that background coming closer when you scroll, and then when you go back, it goes back as well. All right, so now that we've done this, the next thing I'll do here is I'll just come over here. I'll just close this, I'll close this, and then close this, and then come over to our front container, and then I'll turn it on. Okay, so now that I've turned it on, for the front container, I'll go to the advanced settings, come down to where we have the Z index, and then give it a value of 2. And for the back, I'll go to the advanced settings, come down to the Z index, and give it a value of 1. So we now have this. Finally, the last thing I'm going to do is I'll just come over to the front container. Now for the front container, I'm going to go to the advanced settings. On the advanced settings, I'll come down to here, we'll have the motion effect. Now for the scrolling effect, I'm going to turn this on and then come over to the scale. And for the direction, I'll leave it as scale up. For the speed, I'll set it to 120. And then for the viewports, to the bottom, set it to 0%, and then to the top, 100%. Now I'll come over to the effect relative to, and I'll set it to the entire page. Okay, so now we now have our design is complete. Now I'm just going to come over here and click on the publish so we can see this on our live page. So now I'll click on the view preview changes. So now this is what we'll have here. So now when we scroll down, you now see this wonderful effect. Okay, and then when you scroll back up, you now have this effect. Okay, so now in a situation where you want to add more content, so when you scroll down, you still continue scrolling and have other content. It's really easy to do. All you just need to do is come back here, and then we're just going to toggle this. Now for our hero container, we're going to hide it. click on this eye, and then we now have the option to add multiple containers. So just select this flexbox container, select the structure here, and then we can add whatever we want to add here. So however, I don't want to make this video long by creating another section and going over and over. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy out some designs that I've already built before. So I'll just paste it here. Now this design, I have done it before, and there's a video for it where you have this wonderful effect here. So I'll go back here, and then I'll copy this section here as well, and then I'll come back here to our design and paste it here. So you can add multiple sections as you want, and it's not going to affect our effect at all. Okay, so I'll still come back here and finally copy this one here, and we've gradually designed our website here. Okay, so now I'm just going to click on the publish. Okay, and then I'm going to come over here to view our website, as you can see here. So now I will scroll down. You can see this wonderful effect here. Then we'll scroll back up and I'll have this here. Okay, so that's pretty much it about this tutorial. As you can see, this wonderful effect here with this scrolling effect and this parallax effect here. So we've come to the end of this tutorial. If you've learned something new from this tutorial, please remember to give this video a thumbs up. And if you're new to our channel, remember to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon so you get notified first when I drop a new video. And if you have any question, feel free to drop your comments wherever you're confused, and I'll do well to attend to as much as I can. But until then, see you in our next video. Bye-bye.